guys, welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today I'm joined by the brilliant Harry Fielder. Harry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Great to have you with us. Great to have you with us. Harry is the CEO of Umi, which we're going to be hearing all about today. And we're also going to be having a discussion about some other topics that I think you will be finding very interesting. Just before we get into the episode, though, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Please do engage with us through the comment section as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the discussion points today. But yeah, we are trying really hard to grow the channel by bringing you value-added content every single week with fantastic guests just like Harry. So please do, as I say, like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment and leave your thoughts. Harry, without further ado, I'd love to hear, for anybody that doesn't actually know Umi, can you tell us a bit about Umi, what it does for its clients, and I suppose give us a bit more of an idea about what you do as well?
Of course. Yeah. So Umi, we're a marketing and development agency for hospitality and travel. So interestingly, we started out as a hotel company. So Uni Hotels predated the agency that we are now. Back in 2007, Umi Hotels was started, and we had a hotel in London, Brighton, and a franchise in Moscow.
Yeah.
The one in Moscow sort of disappeared into the ether at some point. But London, the London one, I think, was sort of turned into residential eventually, and the one in Brighton became a harbour hotels. But the internal marketing department became its own agency, which is why we have that sort of affinity with the hospitality industry or with hotels. What started out as hotels has kind of broadened into wider hospitality and travel over the years. But yeah, in terms of the services and what we do, I'd say half of what we do is bespoke design and development. So that's whether that's websites or booking systems, integrations, etc. So custom software for the industry. And then the other half is ongoing marketing support that sort of covers your website support, the digital advertising, social media advertising, search engine optimization, etc. So creating the booking experience and then driving people through to it.
Fantastic. And I suppose just to give people an idea as well, then the types of clients that you're dealing with, is it a specific sort of size of client or type of hotel business, or is it very much a widespread service?
I'd say on the luxury scale, it's very broad. So we have hostel groups all the way through to very exclusive 5-star hotels. So from a luxury perspective, it really covers quite a large spectrum. I'd say in the size, I would say it's from the larger independent to the small to sort of small to medium groups, I'd say. And I think the reason for it is you go too big, they've got a lot of that covered in house. And you go too small,
the budget.
It's either the budget or the tech stack and various things. It's just not complex enough to require a lot of additional support. You might so there's that kind of sweet spot is the larger independent to the smaller group.
Right. And I suppose again, I know that we didn't speak about this previously, but this is just something that's come up in my head. I've spoken to a number of sort of external agencies, but also tech solutions and so on. And a number of them saw an influx of inquiries either towards the back end of, the period that will not be named a couple of years ago now. Have you seen that influx? Have you seen that sudden focus on, we really need to sort out our online presence, or we really need to look at how we're engaging with our guests and so on and so forth? Or has it been a pretty consistent view of it? Because I know that from our end, talking to a number of actually content creators for hospitality, they've seen a massive shoot in terms of what their content is delivered online, from videos to images to actually engaging with guests from an experience perspective. Have you seen any sort of influx or increase on that front?
I certainly think that there is more demand for bespoke solutions, like doing what we do since COVID. And I think there are two reasons for that. One, the direct channel. So we talk about the direct channel of people actually booking with the hotel directly as opposed to going via an OTA. This year was the first year that direct bookings exceeded 50% versus OTA bookings. So actually there is a trend towards people booking more directly,
Sure.
and people being cleverer with things like packaging and actually crafting experiences that bridge together lots of different verticals within the travel experience. So
Yeah.
whether that's local sort of affiliate networks or whatever. So I think from as an industry, people are more open to book direct. I think
Yes.
generally speaking, people have relatively good websites now. They have a
Hmm.
booking solution that does work, and it's not to say everything's great, but on the most part, it can happen.
Yeah.
Um, and I also see for another reason, people have really scaled up their advertising spend. I think we're turning
Mm.
the budget that people are pushing through things like Google Ads and but
Yeah.
particularly performance marketing, that bottom of the funnel. I just want the conversion through my site, and I'm going to bid on whether that's meta
Yeah.
search or Google Ads or whatever. The appetite for that has rocketed from my perspective. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think people are taking a lot more control, and I also think that COVID sort of there was a proper rebound like to
Mm.
that summer. Post
Yeah.
COVID summer was enormous,
Yeah.
and when the bookings are coming in, people have the confidence to invest, and then they show the results, and then it
Mm.
kind of continues. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, I would agree with you.
Yeah. It was just one of those interesting things because there was a very keen focus. I mean,
Mm,
some were looking, don't get me wrong, some during COVID were looking at their tech stacks. They did have that opportunity to do so. Others unfortunately didn't, but that is just what it is. I suppose talking of tech stacks and talking of tech solutions, that actually brings me on quite nicely, not even realizing actually, brings me quite nicely to my next question. Which is actually on because I know we've spoken about this previously, and this conversation does actually ruffle a few feathers, but I'm really happy that we're having this conversation. So I'm gonna so what is one of the biggest challenges for hoteliers in terms of tech and software solutions? I know exactly where we're going to go with this, but I think it's such an important point. So please do
yeah.
take us through what you believe is one of the biggest challenges.
Um, cool. So I think over the last few years, we've seen some amazing solutions come out. Like the
Yep.
now the flip side to that is that there are so many, and each hotel typically might have between 10 and 20 different SaaS solutions in
Yep.
play at any one time. So we're kind of in this place of SaaS soup, right? There's so much out there.
Mm.
Um, and the problem is that going forward, and as we go forward into this kind of first party future where we want to control our own data, we want to centralize that data, and we shouldn't be relying on all of these external services to control our data and to own everything effectively.
Mm.
Um, we're all of these individual decisions around, do I go with this CRM or this booking system or this PMS or whatever you're choosing, have been all made in complete isolation to one another, all made by
Sure.
different people. And we're in a very, very confused state from a technological perspective. And historically, those tech decisions have been made by operational specialists, not technical specialists. They're the
Sure.
revenue management system is from the revenue team. The
Mm-hmm.
PMS is sort of operations. Your booking engine is probably revenue. Your CRM is marketing, etc. Everything is made. All the decisions are made in isolation to one another. Now, the
Yeah.
future is in bringing that all together. Is bringing the data silos together
Yeah.
because to get that complete picture of a guest, to train an AI, to all of these things that tech is going to need requires consolidated data and owned data.
Right.
Um, and so we might look at, oh well, how have hotels let themselves get into this position? But
Yeah. Yeah.
in reality, the role just hasn't existed. You don't
Sure.
have a CTO of a hotel typically. You
Yeah.
have heads of department, that's fine, and you have director of sales, director of marketing. Each one will be controlling their own tech systems, but there's
Mm-hmm.
uh, very few scenarios where there is an individual that brings that together. Now there are a few, and
Mm-hmm.
as a result, you get incredibly connected tech stacks, and
Right.
they will be very well positioned for things like personalization and customer data platforms and all this kind of exciting stuff of the future.
Mm.
So there's kind of been this missing role, I think, at a senior level in hotels, and when it comes to innovating with all of these amazing solutions out there. So you look at the really connected property management systems like Muse and
Yeah.
Paleo and these guys, their APIs and their connectivity is amazing. Now,
Mm.
is it then on the hotel to understand what they can do with that connectivity? If they're setting their strategy, their tech strategy,
Yeah.
then yes, they should be planning around like, oh, this is what we want, and we want to use these tools. But there's no skill set to do that. Is it in the marketing agency? Not really.
I was going to say, I wouldn't say it
Sort
probably
of.
sits under that. No.
Not really. Maybe on the web agency, but typically the web agency historically has just interacted with the booking engine, nothing else.
Right.
Um, so there has been no role to actually leverage all the connectivity that's out there. So you have this kind of very disconnected set of silos because everyone's making decisions in isolation. But you've
Right.
also got an amazing set of technology that cannot be capitalized on because no one understands it enough to actually set a strategy around it.
Sure.
Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's one of those when, like we've seen with a lot of things in the hospitality industry, because it's one of those where it's continuously developing, especially on this tech and sort of software solution side of things, because there is so much innovation. I was talking actually well, we spoke about this actually previously a
Yeah.
few weeks ago, but I was speaking to Susie. Hi Susie, shout out to Susie, about something very similar to this,
Mm.
and it was the innovation in tech is incredible. Absolutely, they are going down a route that is mind blowing, and now AI is getting involved. It's stepping up even more. But what we're missing is that connectivity between that solution or that tech element and the hotelier. There's
Yeah.
just this either the tech solution. Well, the feedback from hoteliers has been you're fixing problems that we're not dealing with. You're creating
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we see coming, but right now we need this. And there's this sort of notion of we in the tech industry understand what you need, so just take it and listen and
Yeah.
do what we're saying. And the hoteliers are saying, well, this is actually what we need. And it's the lack of hospitality experience or understanding the nuances and complexities of hospitality that's been the missing piece. But
Mm-hmm.
what you're effectively saying is that within the hospitality sort of element, there's no one to well, no, sorry, that's not the right phrase. Actually, there are very, very few people who can genuinely have that complete view of that tech stack or have a full understanding of
Mm-hmm.
actually what it's capable of.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where the real gap is. It's yeah, the tech are doing what they're supposed to be doing and innovating and driving. Because who wants a tech company that's not going to continue to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And yet the hospitality industry, effectively, if they're not careful, will remain stagnant. So they'll
Mm-hmm.
stay in one place and tech will just keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
And actually,
accurate?
yes, I would say that the reason why we're quite far behind is
Yeah.
because historically the property management systems and the various tech solutions in place did not have the connectivity and did not have the capability to be
Right.
innovative on top of it.
Yeah.
So now, and that was the reason for us being quite behind as an industry.
Right.
I think a lot of those issues, not all of them, but a lot of them are very quickly being solved.
Mm.
But from an on-premise perspective, within that hotel team, there's no skills. There's no role that is going to be driving the innovation from the hotel side. So
Sure.
all these tools are out there. And I was on stage with Matt, the CEO of Muse, the other day.
Oh yeah.
And like some of the stuff that they can do, some of the stuff that you can do with the Muse API, it's amazing. But I would say that the number of their however many customers have got it that genuinely make best use of the underlying tech that's there, it's probably less than 10%. Sure, must be. I don't know that. Don't quote me on that, but it won't be that high.
Sure.
Similarly, I was speaking to a booking engine company who I think they had about 1,000 users and 1,000 customers. And I think 5 people had used the booking engine API on top that was built in. So
it's
again,
screaming
a
out
fraction
then.
of a percent. And that's not because the technology, the connectivity and the tools don't exist. It's just there's no one whose role is it to be innovative with that.
Well, that's the next question then. Well, no, before I go on to the next question, which vertical do you think is best positioned? Or is it, just to give an example from my end
Mm,
anyway, in terms of the innovation with revenue management, is
hmm
that revenue management itself is becoming, or has been becoming, wider and wider commercial as the years go by. We've seen a massive transition in the requirement for revenue managers to not only be that analytical, commercially minded individual, but they also need to be able to communicate. They need to be able to get buy-in. They need to be able to get
mm,
the various elements of commercial, understand them and drive forward. That's why
hmm
revenue management is becoming, it's sort of, the landscape has shifted almost because it's becoming more and more central. Whereas before it was sort of a nicely packaged sort of team, right? It was
hmm
just you sit there, you sit there, you sit there, and you sit here. And usually it was finance that sat in the middle. But more and more we're seeing that revenue is becoming more and more um understood, I suppose, is probably the best way to put it. And
hmm
it's being realized. Now, is that the same in this space? So who the heck is who, what line, I suppose, of progression and career does somebody go down to be perfectly positioned for this role? Because I know that revenue would probably say, well, it's us. but of
Yeah.
course, marketing may have something to say. Sales, not so well, no offense to anybody in sales, but not so much, I don't believe. I could be wrong, obviously,
hmm
but what's your opinion?
So I think that what we've seen with like revenue management in particular
Mm,
and marketing have their spheres have got closer and closer, particularly around
mm,
things like packaging and if you're bidding on certain, you're running various campaigns, you need to know that pickup report. Now,
mm,
there's been lots of situations where the marketing just hasn't had visibility of that, and then steadily they do, and they can work together a lot more. Now, I'd say though that's kind of a broadening of a
mm-hmm.
role. It's now to actually fully understand the tech behind it, you're going to need to know what an API is and how data structures work and how
Yep.
this kind of thing. And so I don't know if that's a broadening of an existing role. I like what because I think over time, revenue and marketing, they can generate more empathy and understanding and knowledge of other departments within that hotel, I think.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but which department, whoever they learn from, I don't know who they're going to learn from
Mm.
to have the level of technical understanding required to do it. I don't know.
Either way,
And so,
I was
do
going
you
to
know what I
say
mean?
either
Like, who,
way.
who are you going to
Yeah.
learn from?
Well,
And
either
interestingly, you're
way.
going to get,
Yeah.
so I know Hosper, for example, they're launching like an IT course
Yes.
or IT for hoteliers, which is exactly what you kind of need, I think.
Mm.
It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, so that's quite exciting. Or does it really warrant a full CTO type role?
Mm.
Possibly not. I think you'll see a lot more. I think it warrants like a part-time CTO, a part-time kind of tech oversight. And I'd say
What
that,
I
yeah.
was going to say, what, because of course, if a role was created,
hmm
there would need to be specific focus on training. As you say, where the hell do they start, right? And I suppose there are other potential solutions. Now, if we were going to go down that route,
Mm,
it, just because clearly you put a lot of thought into this, and it's something that you've spoken about previously, because we obviously discussed that. What do you think the solution is for now? The long term solution might be that a
hmm
role is created, absolutely, and that might be something that happens, and we may see it over the next 5-10 years. But of course, that doesn't fix the issue now, because there's still that gap. So I suppose, from your perspective and from your expertise and knowledge, what do you think the solution is in the market as we see it?
hmm hmm Um, so I think that the two sets of people that probably have the best understanding of this to be able to
Mm,
go in and make a change are the software providers. So your
yeah.
booking engine solutions, your PMS solutions, etc. Um, and you've also got all the service providers like the agencies or consultants or whatever.
Mm,
So if you address the first one, I think from a sales perspective, when salesmen are selling their software in to,
Yeah.
there'll be buzzwords like, oh, we have an API. Great.
Sure.
Now, what does it do? Like, just, okay, so now extrapolate on what could be done with that API.
Yeah.
What doors does this open? So almost kind of starting to sow the seeds of their technology as an enabler, not the end itself. So and sort of education pieces around what could be done with their connectivity. So
Sure.
and opening up academies and or training courses and various things of how to leverage their software in loads of different ways, so that you can kind of start fostering that creative thinking. There is going to be there will be a jump between probably the skill set that's there and the technical understanding required to actually digest that sort of information.
Yeah.
But I think software companies can definitely work on sort of educating people about how they could take their system as a starting point, not as the end point.
Right.
I also think software companies need to be clearer about the restrictions as well. So an example, a CRM company might say, oh yes, we have an API, but that might just mean I can push a contact into it. And it doesn't necessarily mean
question,
it doesn't necessarily mean I could then start pulling contacts and having a part of my website that can pull and allow people to update all their contact information and stuff. It doesn't mean that.
Sure.
So because no one's asking the question. The other side is the service providers, which I think are going to start particularly like website creators, right? If design and develop a website, and historically it's had a book now button that goes out to a third party, done. Like that is the role of traditionally the role of the website guy or agency or whatever. Now, I also think it's on them to start understanding the wider hotel tech stack. So understanding when they have a brief in from a hotel, oh, we'd like a new website. Okay, well, how can we, what information might we be able to use from the PMS? What information might we be able to bring in from some live rates from the booking engine? Are we able to push these audiences or user behaviors into your ads platform? And so if you're going to be a bespoke design website agency, I think it's starting to become an important consideration of the brief. I think the briefs need to be augmented. That's going to need understanding from the hotel side, because the chances are that the brief isn't actually the right brief, which is tricky sometimes, because the RFP, you're going to have a bunch of criteria that you need to grade against.
Sure.
So there's going to need to be some flexibility there. I've had situations where I've gone in as a response to an RFP and said, I think this is wrong in the brief. I don't think you should be doing this. And, we're like showing the front door. It's like, okay, well, if you can't agree to our marking criteria, then is what it is. But it's fine. Yeah. Whatever. Never mind. So
is that again, though, is that a gap there again of a lack of understanding, or is that, for the want of a better phrase, ignorance? I don't know. What do you think is the gap there?
In that instance, it's potentially a lack of it's an unknown. It's because if you set a brief that takes no account of connectivity, and you are reluctant to listen to what is possible, then that's on you. Whereas it's not, you might not know that, and that's okay, but there's just going to need to be an element of flexibility in the briefs for these things, so that you can actually be educated by the technical team, the technical minds that might have interesting solutions for it.
That's the other thing, actually. That's just clicked with me, because so if you think about this as well, if you've got various different people in different commercial elements, right? When we were talking about this CTO, if you do, you'll have different requirements from different heads of, and they will have different viewpoints. So they'll go with a certain tech solution that might not integrate with another, but that particular one fits with my requirements.
Exactly.
And if you've got somebody that looks at it from a bird's eye view at the whole, as if you were treating it as a strategy almost, right? This works with that works with that. I know that this is going to work best for everybody. because the know-how or the gap there is too large for somebody in that marketing department, or too large for somebody even in that revenue department, to quite get. So that's why I'm here, to make sure that everything works.
Mm-hmm.
So different briefs from different people within the same business can create such a big problem, because the requirements can be so different, yet there is a solution out there. They just don't know it if it all works together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what might be a sacrifice of functionality within a vertical might actually have a much wider benefit of actually creating this central customer view, or this central customer data platform, or have the connectivity to feed into something much greater than their own department.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you, again, just looking at the solution here and now, are there, I don't know, are there people out there that specialize in interim CTO roles? Is there, is that a thing, or is that something that, again, that you're seeing starting to emerge, just out of interest?
Yeah, not many. No,
not many. Right.
I feel like as an agency, and having just been involved in, so I'm also a developer as well. So I used to do, so I sort of have naturally slightly fallen into that position, not through choice necessarily, but because I don't really mind speaking my mind, and I will have these conversations, whether it's a sales meeting or a marketing meeting, you sort of end up challenging, why have you made that decision? Or this is what I would do. And so it's kind of now just the advice that we're sort of starting to give, or the conversations that we're starting to have, is quite a stretch from a traditional website design / marketing agency now, but it is in that universe. It's in that world. Like, if we're being asked to, I'll give a little use case.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say we wanted to create a Google Ads campaign that targets people that have checked in certain, have perhaps selected a certain date. They selected a number of children. They came in through a specific campaign for a summer campaign, for example. In theory, I'm able to give that audience, that person, I know a lot about them. I can give them a date specific promo code that includes families, and I know the sort of campaign that they came through. I can be incredibly specific, but that requires connectivity between whoever's managing the website, because you need to collect all of that information, push it over to the ads platform, and it all needs to work together. Now, quite often your website team is different to your advertising team, and they don't talk to each other typically. So classic use case, and that's just bridging the gaps. It's just so many gaps to bridge. Or alternatively, someone logs, I want to have a protected rate on my website, so because I want to offer 15% off to members. We're not breaking rate parity rules because it's a closed community. Great, I want to take a sign up. So they create an account on the website. Does my CRM have an API where I can push that data to?
Sure.
Maybe not. Does my loyalty platform, is that going to, how can I add, is there any way of me checking my points or number of stays or historical reservations from that point? Again, so it's a conversation that who's responsible for it?
Well, this is it. And so if you've had, say you've fallen into these things, right? As that, obviously I don't want to say you have, but that's sort of the line that I went down. Have you been in a situation then where you've effectively done that interim CTO type role, and how was that received? Because it's because it's so new, and because it is a challenge. That's the thing. It is that would be, I imagine, a constant challenge. What, if you have done it, what's been the experience like? Obviously I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
no,
what's, because I can't imagine that was easy.
So very good question. Probably two examples of where it's been tough. Like, one is the wider tech strategy often happens at, I'd say, is kind of a board question. Like, you've got your CEOs and your GMs that's more like a CEO of a board, really, rather than an
Sure.
operational GM. And let's go, where should we be in the next 5 years from a tech strategy perspective? Now, setting that tech strategy, what you're doing is you're setting sort of the way you're going to make tech decisions, as opposed to choosing specific systems, I guess, because it's like one step above the choosing of the systems. Now, that when you have all the heads of department are sort of very operationally sound, they're incredibly used to the systems that they're using.
Yeah.
There is resistance, 100%.
Of course.
Like,
yeah.
because it's the features and the knowledge of the product and what it can do for their department that is the most important thing.
Understandably.
Understandably, very understandably.
Yeah.
And so it's balancing the long-term view that the heads of department have never needed to relate to, because they've never so that's hard. The other thing is, like, contractually, a lot of people are in situations where, for example, like marketing consortia, let's say, okay, well, I want to have start building my own database of my own loyalty platform where people can log in, you start connecting the whole stack together.
Sure.
Some marketing consortia don't allow you to do that, because they own the data and they own the sign up, they own the rewards. Right. Okay. So contractually, there's some resistance there as well, because you have to take their software, you have to take their marketing their like loyalty solutions and things like that. So there's some interesting things there as well. But yeah, it's something that I've just started to fall into, and more out of not necessarily because it's been requested, but more because you just start poking holes in I don't think this is the right thing. And if you're vocal enough about it, you start uncovering a lot of challenges, and then with the right people, they are receptive to that insight, to that information. But I think, I think there's a lot of potential for service businesses to kind of expand into that tech consultancy role, because they've got the tech understanding. They just need to know how to. Their job is to know as much as possible about all the different tech solutions out there and the capabilities of them. So it's partly developer knowledge and partly an understanding of the under the hood of all of the solutions out there, so that it becomes a dot connecting exercise rather than
I actually really like that analogy, dot connecting within this, because it does work. And as I say, it was just dwelling in my mind a bit, because I just thought, if you've fallen into this, I can imagine those initial conversations, because it is so new, it would get people's backs up, and it would be like, well, we don't need it, or why are we talking, whatever. And it would be a constant challenge. And yet your only objective is to make life easier, or to make life better and more innovative and easier to understand. And yet you are constantly being hit with, because you're effectively being the problem now. You're disrupting what the natural order of things are, which never goes down well. I myself know what it's like to be. I'm sort of a bit of a bear poker myself, so it's one of those where it's for no other reason apart from trying to drive positive change, and that's all you're trying to do. So it's just an interesting notion, and I couldn't help myself. So sorry. So moving on to my last question, and this is much more about Umi. It's much more about you guys. So, what have you got coming up? What's exciting at the moment? What's happening over with you guys? And let's hear all about it.
Yeah, I think the exciting bit actually does draw from everything we've just been speaking about, and I think we've identified that there are a lot of amazing tools out there that the hotels could directly make use of if they had the understanding to do it all. Sure. And I think so. Where we've been really trying to invest our time and efforts to progress our offering has been to bring, because we're not a product, right? We're not a SaaS solution or whatever. What we're trying to do is bring all of the different capabilities of the tech that hotels already have, and take that as an offering to hotels. So, for example, an example might be, you've got a website that has that logged in state, that integrates with your CRM system, that uses the booking engine API on the property management system. So you're not going off to a third party booking engine, that has, you can directly scrape rates and rate comparison from Booking.com, Expedia, etc. So you can build that straight into the user experience of the website. You can bring availability rates and inventory directly from the property management system into the website experience. So you can, rather than just seeing all these rooms, why don't you just see the rooms that are available off the bat? Why do you need to see? Why do you need to explore all the rooms, then go to the booking engine, realize that they're not available, and go back again? So but all of these things are not. It's not a SaaS product that we're offering. It's a website design brief that just makes best use of all of the technology that's already out there and already exists that no one's using properly. So that's I think where we're focused on a lot at the moment. So we've built a bunch of tools that allow for us to do that very efficiently. So we've been working with a whole bunch of different booking engines and property management systems, etc., to really understand how their connectivity works and what and hopefully with that expertise, not software, with that expertise, start bringing that to the hotels and saying, hey, I know this is your brief, but this is all the stuff that we can do as part of that brief, because your brief's wrong. Or no, your brief is just short. It's not wrong. It just doesn't look at the horizon enough. It's not. It's short-sighted, or it's not factoring in all the possibilities of what you could actually achieve. And so not many people are doing that, I don't think.
No, absolutely.
And maybe there will be little bespoke agencies that do that, and that's fine. But on the most part, they don't.
Yeah. And I guess that of course broadens your overall offering as well, because you're able to say, we're not just a website, creator or developer. We're not just this. We're so much more. Which again, I think resonates with potential clients a lot more, because you actually are seen to be an entity that is trying to drive things forward rather than just doing what has been done for decades before. So no, absolutely. Well, Harry, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it. I think I've taken up a lot more time than I think we thought we would.
That's all right.
But thank you so much. It's been a really good conversation. For anybody that has got this far into the episode, please do. I will drop Harry's details down below. I have no doubt that he would love to hear from potential new clients that want to find out what Umi can provide them, or if you just want to find out more about this specific discussion point about the sort of CTO side of things. If you're interested in looking at your tech stack as a whole, as we already know, Harry has effectively fallen into this. So it might be a really good conversation. You'll find out more, because I've certainly learned a lot today. So Harry, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been great. Thanks very much for coming.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Guys, again, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And please do leave your comments below. If you've got some thoughts about what we've discussed today, please do. We'd love to hear them. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.